Bonsoir André Comte-SPONVILLE. Ma première question.
Good evening, André Comte-SPONVILLE. My first question is going to be on the quest for meaning. We've heard since the end of COVID, the sentence, health professionals, doctors, younger generations are looking for meaning. It might be surprising because regarding their mission towards the patient, they have a work that gives them a lot of meaning, more significantly than other professions. I talk about the concept of BS bullshit jobs from David Graeber, the anthropologists of jobs, where those who are exercising the job cannot find a meaningfulness to their job. And we have this issue. I talked with director of care who told me that in her teams there was more and more demand for slashers, professionals who wish to share their activity, and so health provider slash yoga teacher. So is there something more profound, which is the loss of values in the work that's undervalued or devalued, or a hyper-individualization of the quest for meaning that makes it's more complex today to be able then to have a collective work and team, a modification, a deep modification of action modalities. So good evening. I'm going to answer, but in a lengthy fashion. I asked for Guy Valencien and Sophie. Both accepted, were kind, rather than to mimic a TV interview, which is always a disappointing exercise, to take the time to build my own reflection. It's an excellent question, the question of meaning, the question that we all ask ourselves. It's a question, the whipped cream answer, that no one else. Look at the Gospels, meaning doesn't appear. Even in religion, all the Greek philosophers, no one wondered, even Descartes, Spinoza, nobody answered the question for of life has a meaning. It would be the philosophical question. It's weird that we went through 25 centuries and we discovered that that's the real issue, that's the real question. The question of meaning is extremely confused, because the meaning has three different meanings. The five senses, touching, smell, the meaning of a sentence, signification, and the direction. I took it the direction, more in the direction. So in French, direction and meaning have the same word. So these three meanings are completely different. When we talk about meaning, we don't know what we're talking about. And since it's a confused notion, we think it's profound. But no, it's just confused. And then, let's stop to make me laugh. If there's a job that has a meaning, is care. Doctor, nurse. I did two conferences, one at the hospital of Saint-Brieuc and the one in Angers, if I remember well. And one of them, I was talking with the head nurse, the general surveyor, complaining a few years from retirement. She complained that young nurses were less motivated than she was when she was her age. I don't understand that they're not motivated. We're doing the most beautiful job in the world, taking care. And she repeats, take care. It's the most beautiful job in the world. And she has stars in her eyes saying that it's one of the most beautiful jobs in the world. If it doesn't make sense, I don't know what makes sense. Most of you have BS jobs, but when you pay someone, it's because it's useful to others. We discovered during a lockdown that garbage collecting had meaning. We didn't realize, and suddenly we realized that if we don't collect garbage, it's not going well. And it's harder to live longer without garbage collectors than without doctors. If you're in good health, you can spend a month without doctors, but without garbage collectors, from a sanitary point of view, it's terrible. So we understood the job of job collectors has meaning. Do you want to be garbage collector? Do you want your daughter will become a garbage collector? No. So it means that it means sense it should be enough to make it desirable. And so your job of caregiver, doctor, mostly here, has meaning. It is not enough for you that it's enough to convince that your children would be doctors. When you question on the meaning of life, that means you're already sick. Because if life needs meaning, if you need that for you to love life, you don't feel well. When you question yourself on the meaning of your job, it means that you're not happy in there. And so my idea is that if doctors start telling themselves stories on the quest of meaning, it means that doctors are unhappy. And in the end, that's what's the most striking to me. And I'll start from an observation of a paradox. We never so much celebrated health, medicine, never applauded, remember, during lockdowns, caregivers, and they've never been so unhappy. Look for the mistake. When you talk about doctors, the meaning, it's because of politicians. 50 years, I'm passionately interested in politics. I've never seen doctors happy with their governments. I have trouble thinking that for 50 years, we're governed only by stupid people. Or if you wonder, on the level of French people who for 50 years only elects imbeciles, votes for imbeciles. And if doctors are unhappy, it's not only the fault of politicians. It's only because they trouble us with paperwork, administrative tasks, accounting. They're not your core jobs, and I understand why it troubles you. I'm not going to solve your problem with Social Security or a hospital director. If you work at a hospital, I had that working at the Social Security or hospital are useful and beautiful jobs. My idea, in the end, is that the issue is deeper than this. The problem is the place of health in general and medicine in particular in our societies. My idea is that the place has never been so important. It's going to continue to become so more and more, to the point that the place of medicine is so important, and health is so important, that medicine is not able to fulfill it valuably, or neither are societies to fund it. The place of health has never been so important. Why? Because for 6 reasons. I'm going to go through the 5 first to linger more on the 6th reason. The place of medicine, health/medicine, is greater than ever because of the progress, considerable progress of medicine. We're very fortunate. We live with the greatest medicine of all time. It had never happened. And we made more progress in 1 century, doctors have made more progress in 1 century than humanity for the 300,000 years before. And we are fortunate to have medicine, scientific, efficient, performant, without which, looking at the average age, 1 out of 4 would not be here today because you would be dead. Let's not complain about that. But the more the medicine can do, the more we require, we ask from it. So instead of saturating demand, it reinforces it. And so we require more and more from health. Health was an opportunity. You had it or you didn't. Today it's a market. There's a market for health. It's a right, say some. The right to health. The notion is absurd. If you have a pancreas cancer and the doctor said, I don't know how to heal you, you're not going to complain. You're not going to sue for that, saying I have the right to health. There's no right to health. There's a right to care. And that's it. Before health was an opportunity, a chance, you had it or not. Today health is a science, medicine, a market, and a right. So necessarily, chance is occasional, and rights are universal and they take more and more space, and markets are universal. That doesn't mean that chance doesn't play a role. The more it's better to be in good health than have a good doctor. It puts medicine in its rightful place, which is not the first one. But nevertheless, the medical progress, medicine plays an important role, greater than before, and it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Those who think that it always better before are stupid, but those who think in terms of health it's abysmal stupidity. The reason why the place of medicine is greater than before is the receding of religion. So for 20 centuries, the Western Christianity, to talk about our civilization, the meaning of life was this salvation of your soul. This meaning of life was another life. And suddenly we don't believe, but we believe most people are atheists or without religion. I saw the Pèlerin, a Catholic newspaper, that says that in a poll that even Catholics, only 13% of Catholics who declare believing in resurrection. So Catholics in general only practice in Catholic. Those who go to Mass every Sunday, a small minority believe in resurrection. So massively, for our citizens, and I'm part of them, and for the first time for 20 centuries, maybe 300,000 years, death has become really death. Not another life, but the end of the only life given to us, this one. And so since life is unique now, it's become more and more precious. So it becomes more and more important to keep it, preserve it, and health becomes more and more important. Often, when I face medicine, I call this salvation for health. For 20 centuries, the Western Christianity was to build your salvation. Now the meaning of life is to preserve your health. It's like a revenge of etymology, because salus in Latin, the first meaning is health. In Spanish, you say salud, health, when you cheer, So health has taken the role of salvation, the place of salvation. So medicine is becoming our religion. Except that, I have to tell you, I wouldn't be angry with doctors, but health has never saved anyone. Medicine, neither does medicine. So if you count on your good health, so for your life to have meaning, you're missing the point. Third reason, for the place of medicine to be greater than ever, the aging of population. It's old people who fall ill, and thank God, it's good that most people are preserved. One of my sons is a doctor, and when he finished his studies, there was some point he talked about specializing in gerontology. And I thought it was sad. Why? Why? Gerontology, it's sad, old people. No, it's great. They have all the pathologies. And a society that is aging has more and more pathologies and goes more and more often to see the doctor. One of my friends told me a few months ago, when we were young, we would meet, we would talk about our love stories, romantic stories. Now I realize we ask news about our health. And most often, the other day, a few months ago, there were 6 people, 3 couples, 3 men. The 3 men did 3 strokes. I'm part of them. In the time preceding, the 3 had a little thing under the skin at the heart level to check cardiac rhythm, and the 3 were either on anticoagulants or aspirin. This is what aging is about. And so a society that is aging, necessarily, is going to require more and more request something from medicine. Fourth reason, risk aversion, linked to aging. Because old people who are afraid of risk, young people like risk. When you look at 16-year-olds going on their scooters without a helmet on their back wheel, you kind of worry. Whereas old people who are 80 years old going down the steps, holding the ramp, because they're afraid of falling. It's terrible because he has so much less to lose than the young person. I'm 72. I don't want to be angry with those here. When I go down the steps on the metro, I don't hold the ramp. That's my pride. But I close to the ramp because you never know. I fell twice in the metro. Twice. It was going up. I was lucky. It was going up, and going down it's more tricky. The older you get, the more you risk averse, and the main risk in our society who are very, very little dangerous. Let's stop worrying because there's murder on TV, but not only on TV. We never lived in a society that was so little dangerous. At the human scale, we're extremely secure. The only risk is to fall ill. Statistically, you're fortunate, or the risk to be murdered or to die of a terrorist attack is so weak. It's not even worth thinking about. Your chance of falling ill is 100%. And so the more you fear the risk, the main risk is becoming disease, the more you're going to ask something from medicine. So this risk aversion is hallucinating. 1 or 2 years, I was doing a conference for doctors, sponsored by big pharmaceutical labs, as usual. So during the break, I went to get a drink with the bosses who were paying me from these pharmaceutical labs, because it's only here that I work voluntarily. I'm saying that for everyone. Don't try. The answer is no. I'm not doing volunteer work, except humanitarian association. The medical field, no. You don't work voluntarily. The hospital, me neither. So I went to see the bosses of this pharmaceutical lab. The theme was risk. And I told you, there's so much risk aversion today that if we just discovered this aspirin would not be freely accessible. You'd need a prescription. And so the bosses were telling me, that's not the issue. We don't even have an aspirin. Why? Because it's easy. You have a new molecule. You test it on the rats. Aspirin on the rats is lethal at 5 grams. We stop right away. No lab will make research on a molecule that's lethal with the rat at 5 grams. But aspirin is excellent medication, dangerous like any good medication, but excellent, because they improve the lives of lots of people with migraines. I think statistically there's 10, 20 people here who take it every day in pediatric doses. Last year, I did a talk before the Academy of Surgeons, and they made great progress, he told me, in surgery in 50 years. Great. Now, we couldn't do it anymore. Why? Because there's so much protocols to cancel all risks that we couldn't do the project that we did by taking risks. So a society that's aging has great risk aversion, and so we're going to count on medicine to reduce risk. We're suppressing risk, as the poem of Eliade that we read this morning, as we could suppress risk. But it's ensured failure. You know, Dr. Knock from Jules Romain, health is a precarious state that doesn't call for anything good. It's funny, because it's absolutely true to the verbatim. So the idea of suppressing risk is paradox on life. Life is risky by definition. Fifth reason why medicine has a greater place than previously. So death, precisely. Because the worst is that we always die. What Laurent Alexandre says is not ready to disappear. It's annoying. We make so much progress in medicine. We spend fortunes. It costs us an arm and a limb and a leg, but we still die. And it's even more shocking that death becoming socially rare. From the time where we would die easily, it was less striking. Montaigne in the 16th century would write in his essays, I lost 2 or 3 children, literally. He can even remember he lost 5 in reality. He said 2 or 3. My wife told me, I think that Madame Montaigne would have got it wrong on the figure, and that's probably right. But in time of Montaigne, death of a child was so trivial that we could forget it. Today we die less, and so death becomes more important, and then life too, and health too, and so medicine too. without some, paradoxes. And so I was giving a philosophy seminar with doctors, and one of the medical professors told me that this weekend I was correcting copies of my students, and I read on one of the copies this following sentence: before, people would die often. The teacher said, I wrote in the margin in red, they don't die less today. Medicine, where is your victory? What's interesting is that the student is right. In truth, we die less often than before. What we call the mortality rate. So if you go cover 1 year the number of deaths to the number of living, you have a rate called the mortality rate, which is decreased formidably, and we're not going to complain about that. But the mortality rate are statistics. They're only valuable for big numbers. But life and death are not statistics. It's you, me, individuals. But the individual rate of mortality has not changed by decimal since 300,000 euros. It's 1 on 1, so 100%. So medicine, where is your victory? But since we're afraid of death, nevertheless, we're going to require from medicine the impossible, or what can save us from dying. A doctor said one day in a seminar, I was the consultory advisory board on ethics. A doctor was there, he was a urologist, and he said, for me, doctor, all death is a failure. Well, you're not ready to succeed here. All your patients will die. No worries. No concern about that. And yes, it's okay, it's bad. Yeah, for a pediatrician, but a urologist, it's normal that people die. I don't want to be angry with Guy today, our excellent urologist here. Medicine is not fighting against death. It's fighting against disease. And so, of course, we often die of disease, but death itself is not a disease, because it's normal and not pathological to die one day. And since if we don't accept that it's normal to die, we're going to require medicine to prevent us from dying, or to defer indefinitely death, and we're going to end up with failure. It doesn't make sense. All my patients die, of course. They die. That's why I've been quoted during the pandemic this great sentence from Montaigne in the essays. Montaigne writing, you don't die of what you're sick of, you die of because you're living. And we should write the sentence in gold letters, the sentence in gold letters at the entrance of our hospitals. You don't die because you're sick, you die because you're living. Sixth reason, and last one on which I'm going to linger a little longer, that's a change, not so much factual or historical, but normative shift on the values and the hierarchy of values. For the 5 reasons that I mentioned, health has become the supreme value. Before, health was a means to an end to serve certain values, and more, health is not a means but the ultimate goal. And so the value, the supreme value, to the point that we end up what I called 30 years ago already, remember, way before the pandemic, pan-medicalism. Pan is all, the whole. Pantheism, that all, God is everything, everything is God. So pan-medicalism is an ideology or civilization that tends to make of health the supreme value, and so that attempts to ask everything from medicine, to require everything from medicine. Doctors, I'm sad, tired, anxious, can you give me something? Understand me well. I know there's sadness, there are pathological depression is a disease that is healed better and better. That's one of the greatest progress of the last decades. My mother died. She suicide from suicide of depression, and today we could have healed her. I know that anxieties are pathological, fatigues. And I saw there's sadness that are not pathological and they are normal. Anxiety that is normal. Fatigues that are normal. And as long as we don't accept to see that sadness, fatigue, anguish are not necessarily pathological but are part of human condition, we're going to ask for medicine to transform humanity. One of them, doctors, one of my friends who was a psychiatrist and psychiatrist at Sainte-Anne, he's retired now, and psychoanalyst in the city, as we say. A lot of people come to see him. They ask, what brings you here? I come to see you because I'm depressed, I'm in depression. And he asks, some of them are depressed, and I take care of them, but I discovered that a good number of them, often the majority, are not more depressed than you and me. It's just that they're unhappy. They're unhappy because they don't like their spouse, or their spouse doesn't like them anymore, or because they're doing a stupid or harassing job, or because you're alone, whatever. But they're unhappy. Life is so difficult. The life they're leading is so difficult to be unhappy. It's a health reaction. If with a harassing, underpaid job, living in misery, alone, not liking your spouse and not being loved anymore, they come to see the doctor by saying, I feel great, I'm so happy. Here you would worry, to suspect euphoria, morbid euphoria, that leads to delirium. And so, to be unhappy when everything is doing well is not a pathology, it's a health reaction. So we request more and more from medicine. We end up asking everything. That's why I call it pan-medicalism. 3 examples to make it more concrete. The first occurrence of this pan-medicalism is a sentence from Voltaire in the 18th century, who writes nicely, I decided to be happy because it's good for your health. And so this formula is often quoted positively. Great, Voltaire. I try to be happy because it's good for your health. It's a catastrophe. The day where happiness is just a means to get to this end, the supreme end, that is health, we end up with an inversion, complete inversion regarding 25 centuries of civilization, where we consider conversely that health was a means, yes, precious, but a means to get to this ultimate goal, which was happiness. But this inversion, which is at the heart of pan-medicalism, is the contrary of a good news. Second occurrence of pan-medicalism, more recent, Sampé, so who did a drawing in Le Nouvel Obs, Sampé, who was showing a church, empty, a Gothic church, beautifully drawn by Sampé. In front of the altar, there's a woman in front of the altar praying, talking to the good Lord. And what was she saying to the good Lord? She was saying exactly this: my Lord, I have so much faith in you that sometimes I would like to call you doctor. God is dead, long live the health system. But does it make sense that God gives meaning to those who believe? That's the reason I'm atheist. But the doctor, no, it doesn't give meaning. So, of course, Voltaire and Sampé are kind of jokes. And if you're reminded, the doctors should, the social body requests more and more from the doctors, but doctors haven't resisted with a lot of energy that we wished. I have as proof the definition that the World Health Organization gives to health in 46. You know that the WHO explains to us that health doesn't come just from the absence of disease. That would be too easy. Health, says WHO, I quote, is a state of complete well-being, physical, mental, and social. And each time I hear this quote, this definition, it's always positive. Oh, wow, WHO, they're good. It's a crazy definition. It's a crazy definition. Because if health is a state of complete well-being, physical, or is it mental and social, But just in our country, there's 2 or 3 million who are unemployed and people who are excluded, who are not in good health, and we should urgently send to see their doctors. Except we think that unemployed people, even if they will live in this well-being state, it will be a paradox. God is dead, Marx is dead, long live psychotropes. It says if it's society that is sick, to treat society, I count more on politicians than on medicine. And I'll tell you, if health is a state of complete well-being, physical, social, and if I'm 72 and I lived 3 days healthy, that's a strict maximum. But let's recognize that the state of complete well-being, social, mental, and physical, are really an exception. Do carry poll in the streets. Ask people, what is health? 95% is like an absence of disease. And they will be better placed than the WHO. It's not WHO is going to give the right definition. Ask people in the streets, how do you call a complete state of physical, social, and mental well-being? 9 out of 10 call this happiness. Happiness. Or supposing that if we have happiness, we give a definition so extreme. Because if happiness is a state of complete social, mental, physical well-being, we wouldn't be happy very long. It's an aberration. It's absurd. And so if we confound health and happiness, we ask happiness to medicine, which is paradox on happiness, on medicine, and on human condition. I had 2 questions. I finish with the mistakes of pan-medicalism. It's a double mistake. First, making of health the supreme value. It's false. In my view, health is not the supreme value. Of what I know, it's not written in the Gospels, and it's an atheist telling you that it's not written in the Gospels. Take care of your health, as God is taking care of His. It's written, love one another as God loves you. I hope not to be the last one in our old, former Christian country to think that love is obviously way supreme value than health. Of what I know, it's not written on the pediment of our town halls, health, fraternity. I hope not to be the last one in our republic to think freedom is evidently a superior value to health. But not only health is not a supreme value, it's not a value at all. It's a good. It's a great good. Maybe one of the greatest good individually. But the difference between goods and values that are good is something desirable or that you can envy. A value is something that makes you admirable and valuable. I can envy someone because he's richer than me. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a good. I can envy someone because he's in better health than me. Of course, yeah, it's a good. Health is a good. But if I admire people because he's richer or in better health, I'm an imbecile. But I can admire someone because he's more courageous, fair, generous, and loving. These are values. And so when you make health the supreme value, it means that you submit moral values to the good, and it's already nihilism. If you imagine someone, there's nothing beyond money. So financial nihilism. If someone says, and I heard it 100 times during COVID on TV, there's nothing beyond health, to me, it's sanitary nihilism. Not only the place of health has never been greater, but it's going to become greater by definition because medical progress is going to continue. The other day, a time ago, I asked news of so my friend is my age, and I have asking news of his mother's health, and she's over 90. She's happy, dynamic, humorous, and she sings. You're fortunate to have a mother like that. My friend said she's under Prozac for 20 years. That's interesting. I don't contest the prescription of the doctor 20 years ago, but she's depressed. The same molecule that can heal humor trouble, as psychiatrists say, which is great, can also improve normal humor. Except we have an abysmal question. What's a normal When doctors launched Viagra, I was invited at a round table with doctors. I forgot what we said, but after the conference, we took a drink, and I asked one of the doctors present, who was in his 50s, so younger than what I was, but older than what I am today, Viagra, did you try on yourself? Of course, of course. And, well, it's interesting. It means what? It means that the same molecule that can heal the trouble of erectile dysfunction and good for you, misters, can also improve normal erections. So it bears another abysmal question. What is normal erection? Some of us are wondering since we're teenagers about the same question. So 3 questions. When medicine doesn't help to heal trouble, but heal normal states, is it still medicine or is it always doping? First question. Second question, where are we going to stop? Where does it end? Because the day we're going to find the pill that gives you erection or formidable orgasm and formidable humor, so it makes Viagra, Prozac, I don't know, improved, enhanced. That's your model? Your civilizational model? Your conception of humanity? Where are we going to stop? Third question, who's going to pay? Because I can contribute to care from Republican solidarity. But to improve normal erection, sincerely, I prefer not. I have 2 minutes, 40 seconds. I'm going to be quick. It was absolutely fascinating. I was very happy. Let's talk about the Beatles. On hyperconnectivity, I would like to talk about that, the fact that doctors had administrative loads, but when we read the books of Pascal Chabot, who published a philosophical essay on meaning of life and hyperconnection, the fact that we're connected with a lot of people, to have masses of information, makes that his analysis that we have trouble to find meaning. It's threefold: action, direction, and hyperconnection prevents to be able to find meaning in life. I would like to know what you think of that. If life has a meaning, it's inside of you. It's not on social networks. What Rilke said in his letter to a young poet, you have to hold on to difficult things. Everything living is holding on to this. It's good to be alone because loneliness is difficult. It's good also to love because love is difficult. And if you count on social networks to prevent you from loneliness, which is part of human condition, I think isolation, absence, or disease, and loneliness, which is a dimension that's Buddha said it. Humans are born and live and die alone. And if we want to be relieved from the weight of being ourselves, I think it's antithetic to human condition. And indeed, I wanted to finish with a quote for John Lennon, and I wanted to know what you think. So that's the Beatles, yes. When he was in primary school, he asked him, what do you want to do in life? I want to be happy. And the teacher said, you didn't understand the question. And John Lennon said, he was very self-assured at his age. You didn't understand the question. I'm happy that it's the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. I'm on the side of the Beatles. And he's right. He's right. The meaning of life, if it's one, only one, to strive for is happiness. If you find that medicine doesn't make sense for you, because that means you're not happy as a doctor and you have to change jobs, change something, or change your way of practicing medicine. But don't count on your job, your profession, to make no profession leads to intrinsic happiness, and rather than Voltaire's formula, I invert it and put it upright. What I say, take care of our health because it's good for happiness. I wish you an excellent evening.